side of it, you know, there's out there and trading your time for money and working for the money to build renewables, or you could put your money to work building renewables and earn interest. So if you have some money, make your money work. If you don't have money, go work for money. I mean, that's basic. That's my investing advice seminar piece there. Yeah. Real complex. But essentially, that's it. So there's a couple things happening, and
how about storage? I was sort of waiting if you were going to have any storage, energy storage projects.
There is one little one. There's two little ones. TransAlta's doing a small one on one of their wind farms right outside Pincher Creek as a demonstration, and then there's the Red Deer battery storage project by NextEra.
Both battery storage?
Both battery storage, I believe, both tied to wind farms.
What type of battery is it in Red Deer?
Don't know.
You don't know?
Yeah. Don't have enough about that. That's still quite low profile overall.
There's a whiteboard project also, 25 megawatts from.
Oh, right. Okay, great.
Or TransAlta, one of those two.
Yeah. I mean, it is happening, certainly. But it's something you'd have to. Well, a place to track that, again, is ASO on their spreadsheet. If you can find it on their website, it'll have a list of all the different projects looking for interconnection. That'll include storage, along with gas and renewables.
So you haven't heard of anybody doing gravity storage off of these tall wind turbines, have you?
No.
Down the sides or in the middle or something, no. You got this empty cavern, you've already
I've seen that people doing stuff in the lab with that though, and
you might as well, right?
Yeah.
You've already built the structure.
Pumped hydro storage in the basement.
Yeah, whether it's water.
There's a program on Netflix called Islands of the Future, and in it features a hydro dam that they built in the mountain, that they build up the water, and when the winds are low, they can draw from that, and they can run a turbine off of that to have supplemental power.
Yeah.
Check it out on Netflix.
Islands of the Future. The irony is that's not futuristic at all. That's been one of the oldest storage technology around is pumped hydro storage.
Have you seen it?
TransAlta is building that at the Brazeau Dam, where they had a coal mine years ago. They're putting a pumped hydro storage facility out there, which is kind of interesting. That will be able to store a significant amount of power, actually. So, community renewables. This is a community. You're into renewables. This could be you, actually. So this group I was involved in all last year. We got a government capacity building grant to do some research, start a co-op, attract a board, identify a project that would make sense and that people could get behind, that was co-located with the community somewhere, that people could have an ownership share in. So that's basically the model, and it's fairly straightforward. You get a $100 membership. That makes you eligible to be an investor. When there's an offering on a specific project, probably a bond, which is the simplest, then money is raised from the individual investors that want to participate. It's RSP eligible, and then there's a payback term on that where you will get it back with 5 or 6% interest usually. So it's better savings than a savings account. Is the green bonds. It's basically built on the co-powers model. You've probably heard of co-power. So this group is in Lethbridge, but any Alberta resident is eligible to be a member. And lots of interesting, like the resource there obviously is excellent, but you'd have to talk to them further about that at this point. I'm not working for them any longer. Solar Power Investment Co-op of Edmonton is also out there. They also are, let's say, working on getting their first project happening. So it's not that hard to start a co-op, but to make that leap to identifying a project and overcoming the resistance when you're not a capitalist at heart is huge. It's very difficult because you have this built-in fear that what if something goes wrong as opposed to what if something goes right, and I am certainly hungry enough to win. Whatever comes up, we'll deal with it. Those types of sentiments, not everyone has those, right? So it's a little bit slower going. Goldilocks is looking for just the right bowl of oatmeal. She does not want to take on too much. So if it's only like 500 kilowatts of solar, like a community solar garden type idea, that might be super doable. But maybe there's a big developer doing 50 megawatts of solar and it wants a community ownership component. It's kind of what's your risk tolerance and what kind of partnerships and networks do your group bring to you, and where are the actual opportunities. So Gord Howell and company with Spice in Edmonton, their focus I think is on more like community infrastructure stuff. So like solar on a multi-unit residential building development or electric vehicle infrastructure that's owned by Spice, and looking for ways to tie together energy efficiency, small-scale storage, and distributed renewables. So very much the neighborhood type of approach, which is great. In Lethbridge, they've got more opportunities to get involved with 5, 7, 50 megawatt projects potentially because there's so much space there, and it's also the ag sector is huge there, so farmers make a natural fit if you want to partner up on community-based renewables. Elemental Energy, not so much a community group, but that's not to say an individual couldn't invest in them if they had $100,000 that they wanted to put into an entity. They're out of Vancouver, and they built Brooks Solar 1. Brooks 2 is coming along. Innisfail is under construction right now. If you drive up to Innisfail, just beside the golf course, you'll see a 25 megawatt solar farm there. Slowly starting to take shape. And that's more of a accredited investors consult with your accountant type of a thing there. But they're definitely a force now here. And CoPower has recently joined with Van City to take their bond model, which was rooftop commercial solar and LED lighting retrofits and some geothermal retrofits for commercial buildings. And now they can go 10 times bigger with the type of projects they're doing. So now they're working on their next bond offering, which will also be 5,000 minimum, 6-year terms likely. But the projects will be a lot more substantial. And they're quite interested in Alberta, and they haven't done anything here yet, and they'd really like to. And I don't know why exactly, but
Are they out of Vancouver?
they're out of Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah, Toronto, Vancouver, Van City out of Vancouver, and CoPower out of Toronto. And their biggest thing is how big of a greenhouse gas emission reduction can we measure on these projects? So I asked them, what kind of an IRR do you guys need? And they're like, actually, we want to just maximize the emissions reductions, and then we'll trust the IRR will follow that, right? Deeper the emission reductions, the bigger the savings, the bigger the IRR goes with it. But they really seem to have their head in the right place when it comes to lead from the climate side of it. Bigger impact you make there, you'll get paid.
So Alberta, because we've got the dirtiest grid,
Exactly.
is the best place to invest to get the carbon reduction offset.
That's right. Yeah. And now with the tier, the carbon levy on large industrial emitters that the UCP is pushing ahead with, and then you've got the consumer carbon levy from the federal level. So this is actually a really good place on that side from the avoided cost of carbon. So there's no incentives, but there's this avoided cost. So it's basically the same thing.
Right.
So I'm very bullish on these guys actually, and looking for ways to help them identify projects that might like to take advantage of their financing and their branding.
You mentioned something about, I think it was CoPower that was focusing on rooftop solar. And this is a question that I was going to save for later, but I'll ask now. Why hasn't rooftop solar not taken hold in Alberta or generally?
Yeah, maybe KCP can speak to that.
It has to do with the price of power, right? So people are, honestly, so we install on a lot of commercial rooftops, and the most common question is, if the return makes sense, they actually don't want people to see it from the street. Say if they're involved with oil and gas, or they have oil and gas-based customers, so there is a negative perception from some people still. And then the other piece is, when power prices were super low, they'd have a 5-year contract to say provide 80% of their power at 5 cents or 4 cents per kilowatt hour. When you're looking at PV, it's only just starting to cross that line where it actually makes sense to them from an investment perspective. An IRR of say over 6 or 7%. So it's just when the rebate was there, it did make sense, but people were still hesitant. But
That's it.
There was a lot
it
of
still went
movement.
up 500% over previous.
Exactly.
I guess from almost zero. So yeah.
And it's kind of just starting again, but we're kind of still in what I call a rebate hangover mode. It really depends on the company and if they care what the return is. Like over their standard returns of say 7 or 8% is kind of typical.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to keep an eye on the federal plus provincial carbon tax and see how that affects.
I guess the other piece there is depending on what wire service provider region you're in, there's kind of 4 in Alberta. The rates on the larger commercial side actually vary quite substantially on what your variable rates are for transmission and distribution. It can be like 1 cent versus 4 cents, like Fortis versus ACO territory. So that makes a huge impact. And then ACO, even though it's a higher rate, has worse solar resource because it's in northern Alberta versus southern Alberta. So there's a lot of different metrics at play there.
Yeah, Alberta is complex when it comes to energy and finding, making it pay as opposed to just doing it for the right reasons, but ending up paying for the privilege. That said, here's a graphic you may have seen before. I like this one because it kind of looks at all of Western Canada as a whole. And the resource will probably always be there. Good wind, good solar, even with climate change, just because of the Rocky Mountains and the geography here, it's dynamic. And you're going to see a really decent resource here for ever and a day. Interesting comment from a newspaper article that was out from CBC a little while ago. The legislated target for renewable electricity generation has not been repealed. And this is Alberta Energy spokesperson speaking about the 30% by 2030 target. So that was interesting. I mean, no big announcement saying, yeah, we're keeping this, just this is what we're cutting, because that plays to the base. But there you go. They want to keep working with that, so do not expect any Doug Ford moves from this government tearing out wind turbines, which is great.
Can I just, what's your opinion on a 30% target?
Me. But I mean, hey, it's good. It's good. It's good to start. You get 30% renewables, and then that's the number ASO feels comfortable with integrating, being a variable source of generation, right? And then you have your 60 another 60% gas, and then 10% mixed.
Just so the folks know, AREA is promoting 50% renewable generation with energy storage for 2030. 50%.
Yeah, and I think that's doable.
We think the 30 is way too low. So we're pushing for that. It's in 10 years.
Yeah. No, it is too low, and with the rate of change in climate impacts, that's another thing that just keeps pushing our ambition, and it should be. But I mean, we'll see. They're basically saying now, but we're going to let the market decide how fast it wants to move. They don't really care about the target, but they do care about investment into the province. But as you can see, they didn't even make that really publicly known. They don't really see any upside in being pro-renewables publicly, which is madness. But whatever. Increasing corporate energy procurement, like Warren Buffett and his Rattlesnake Ridge wind project and TC Energy examples. Persistent interest in community scale projects, because I mean technology enables it. Storage, tech, AI, all these things help create these modular energy microgrid systems that you can start to back up your community's energy security plus make long-term revenue on. And lots of construction going on right now and into 2020. A lot. They're going to be banging on the door for people because it's a small pool, you know? Who has renewable energy construction experience? Hardly any of us.
Sorry, just going back to the investment line. So, okay, having worked in this space for some time, what's your perception of things like bullfrog power and other things like I don't know, NMAX has a green energy program and stuff like that.
Yeah, if I was starting a community renewable energy co-op of some kind with some idea of doing like a small solar farm with greenhouses or something innovative, I would call Bullfrog Power and say, do you want to buy into this? Do you want to provide some of the capital so that we can lessen our overhead and firm up our return on investment? And Bullfrog Power wants to be involved in that kind of thing because they're always looking for the latest projects to help their brand survive in a world where more and more people who would, TD would buy Bullfrog credits in the past, now they'll just do a PPA with a giant solar farm to offset their entire consumption, which is a little bit more, maybe makes more sense.
The scale of it seems to have changed a little bit.
Yeah. It is, yeah. It's become bigger and more tied to projects, while Bullfrog is a much more distributed thing. But they basically had the right idea from the beginning. They were doing virtual power purchase agreements, basically, for lack of a better term, and tying it to various different things, much smaller, tiny projects, aggregated together in a basket. So they're going to probably be looking to stay relevant in this new, more bigger power purchase agreement deal. But again, community energy is where a lot of this is going, and a lot of it you see it in the U.S. too. Big investors, the Goldman Sachs of the world, getting interested in community scale solar projects and stuff. And why is that? Because there's so many communities, and the technology has made it possible to get deployment out to communities of all sizes. Whether it's Louisville First Nation or Milk River, Alberta. But Alberta's misbehaving a little bit. It's been a difficult customer in a way to work with because of these all mixed messages and lots of up and down, lots of upheaval, and yeah, just people just don't know where Albertans are at, you know, and it makes it very difficult to feel comfortable sometimes about doing business. So there's an opportunity as this continues to evolve, and as these headwinds for oil and gas just will not go away forever again. And this just continues to make progress. You'll start to see that more of a migration and some changes and some updating happening. And I think Albertans have a huge opportunity to really be, you know, Alberta 2.0 or 3.0, whatever it's going to be here, and kind of make its own luck in this, because it's not just coming out of the ground handed to you. You never had to make your own luck here, right? Like, it's just been sort of there, and there's been insatiable demand for it. So now there's this massive entrepreneurial resource, creativity, risk-taking attitude that's really required for the first time. And it's not just, you know, the entitlement is gone, but the resources are there, and there's a lot that can happen. I mean, the E3 metals, the lithium people who want to take lithium for electric cars and batteries out of the brine from oil and gas wells. Like, it's a brilliant example of what's possible here. So, and I want to close on this for you here in Calgary. So this is the story that some of you have seen, I'm sure most of you probably, of the biggest urban solar farm in Canada, I would say, right off of a brownfield site that's polluted from fertilizer, glyphosate, or whatever it was that Viridium, whoever, Agrium had there. So you can't plant a thing on there, you can't build houses on there, but you can do solar. So they're going to put a clay cap on it and then solar the whole thing. It's like over 60 megawatts, which is a fair bit. You know basically where this is, I kind of do.
This is at the 114th Street South.
Yeah.
There's already one there.
And there is zero opposition to this. I don't know what this is. So this is a solar farm here. Is that what you're referring to?
I think that's it.
Yeah, it looks like it.
That looks more like water.
No.
This is some kind of settling pond, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that's solar, but if it is, it'd be news to me.
Part of it is the dump.
Okay.
Goes by, and then the other part is the compost recycling facility.
Okay.
A little bit to the right.
So brownfield is beautiful because you're taking land that's dead and putting it back to life, generating power. I'm just saying, if you were to start a renewable energy investment co-op here in Calgary, they'd probably love to hear from you, because it's just one more way that they can integrate themselves in the community and have social acceptance. And I'm guessing that, you know, the distance to load here is zero. So that's huge. That's a really good thing right there too. What else can I say? Yeah, make your own luck. Hence four-leaf clover. dpenergy.com from Ireland. They're bullish on Alberta.
I heard of two other solar co-ops, Alberta Solar Co-op,
Yes.
and there's a Renfrew group that's trying to do a 1 megawatt array on top of TELUS Spark Center's parking lot.
Oh wow, great.
So I don't know, they're called Renfrew Solar Co-op or something.
Right. Yeah, I could have added
That's
them
right
to
in Calgary. So they're hoping
Oh.
to go, and they haven't announced what their rates will be on it. And I know Alberta Solar Co-op's been trying for about 7 years, and they just
Haven't seen anything new there, and I think a lot of
Yeah.
those people have gone off to new projects and new
so
things.
maybe it's dead. But the
Basically.
Renfrew sounds like it might happen, but I don't know what the timing is. They're working through the co-op process here, so.
Someone for your next month's meeting.
Yeah.
Get an update from them. What's going on? And I will just finish with my website. This is a photograph. I love this picture. I snapped that on my last day, I think, on the job out in Riverview. It was a beautiful day. And they've got 80-meter hub height and 67-meter long blades on these, so you can stand under here and you feel like you can almost reach up and touch the thing. It's ridiculous. I don't know why they went with such long blades in such a windy location, but that's what they're gonna do. Maybe it's the only ones they could get. I don't know.
Maybe they had to shorten the tower.
Maybe.
Maybe they intended a taller tower, a 100-foot tower, but then they
And
had
it's
to shorten
saying.
it.
Yeah, right. Anyway, they look ridiculous, but they look beautiful too. So
Maybe it's a hand crank.
yeah. Take your hat off. Yeah, if you have a chance to drive down there and check it out, some of them are, you know, really close to the highway. It's quite fascinating. Anyway, that's me. So thanks so much for having me. And
Other questions? Other questions? Whoa! Any more questions?
that's fine. That's fine. Let's talk about questions after.
Okay.
Feel free to ask questions ongoing because we're going to be mingling and talking here for the next however long, right? So.
Randolph, just a small token of our appreciation. You probably know all about a little infrared thermometer.
Nice.
So from us to you, thank you very much.
Thanks
It's
a
been
lot.
an excellent presentation, right, Dan? Really good.
Yeah, I hope that's helpful for someone this year. Yeah.
I have a question. My background is mechanical. I have no idea about the electricity, and I know that the solar or wind creates the DC. But in our home we have AC.
Right.
So how we can transfer? For example,
A lot of developers go with like a 1.3 megawatts of DC will translate down to 1 megawatt of AC. Is that about right? KCP Energy went away, but yeah, there's roughly a conversion there of 1.3 to 1.5, depending how big the facility is. So you have to generate more DC to get a certain amount of AC out the other end. With wind, it's just AC. It's AC off the turbine, and then DC to go down the tower, and then AC again to go to your house. That helps clear that up for you.
So I've seen a number of direct drive wind turbines at that scale, but they don't seem to be taking off, and all of your pictures of the Vestas units are the geared units. So direct drive is just not actually going to take over, is it?
I don't know if it's going to take over, but they've done quite well, and they're just more expensive.
They are
to
indeed.
buy up front.
Yeah, and that's it. It's surprisingly, by eliminating something, you still end up with a more costly product, right?